am Carrie Arsenault. I'm the CEO and founder of Accountability Resources, and I'm a WOW woman. I grew up in Denver, Colorado, and my dad was always in sales. He sold furniture, actually, and my mom was an interior designer and stayed home with my sister and I. But he always said, sales, that's where the money is. That's where, you can thrive. And I always thought, I'm not doing sales. But loved it, played soccer since I was a little kid, and it's definitely nice, Denver in the weather versus Texas. I went to the business school at UT, started off in banking, and then after working 10 years for a large recruiting company, winning several awards, knowing that I was not only was I good at what I did, but more importantly, I was efficient, so I could get done in 4 or 5 hours a day what it was taking a lot of people 10. But really the deciding factor was my son was 3 at the time, and I was like, wow, where did those 3 years go? And I was pregnant with my daughter, and I decided, I can be a businesswoman and a mom, and I don't want to have to choose one or the other, so that's ultimately why I decided to start my own company. It was me at the beginning. The CPA firm here that I share an office with, I went and I rented a cube. So it was me in a cube, 5 months pregnant. I had maybe $1,000. But I knew, again, I go back to I was very good at what I did, and I knew that I could be successful. So I think that is what drove me. So literally I made a placement, and then, more and more I reinvested back in the business, bought software, hired my first employee who's still with me, and really just snowballed it from there. But I'd say it took, so I started in 2005, 2008 was kind of the recession, and luckily at that point we were so lean and efficient and good at what we did that was how I'm like, oh boy, now I've got 2 young kids, I'm trying to start this business. So for a second I was like, okay, I hope I did the right thing. But that was like for 5 minutes. And I'm like, let's just keep trucking. Kids go to sleep at 7. I was back online at 7:30, and I'd work till midnight. So I didn't mind working harder, but I didn't want to miss out on those critical hours, because you can only be a mom once. I think you can run a business for a lot longer. Because there's events at school that there's a lunch or there's a play at 2. I can leave, I can go over there, whereas with a lot of companies 10 years ago, I think companies now are a lot more flexible, which is great, but I couldn't have left, in the afternoon, and so I have a lot of women and moms that work for me that I provide that same flexibility for, and they're amazing. And I think when people appreciate the flexibility that their boss gives them, they work harder. And I think it's more just the fear of continuing to balance and keep perspective of what's important in life. Not lose sight. I've had investors offer to, let's take Accountability Resources and grow it across the country, and I might do that at some point, but the whole reason I started this business was to be there for my kids, who are now 8 and 11. So, 7-10 years maybe, but I don't want to lose sight of ultimately when we leave this world, what's the biggest impact? Because I think that ultimately is what makes me succeed in all the other areas. If I worked too long at the office, I wouldn't be being a good mom. If I wasn't there for my kids, I'd feel guilty at the office. And then if I didn't play sports or stay active, I don't think I would have the energy to do the other 2. There's probably been 3 instances really since 2010. And it's funny because people will be like, wow, I can't believe you've been through that much, but still kept such a positive outlook. Started with the death of my father in 2010, who we were very close. And then 6 months later, I was caught in a flash flood, was sinking in my car, and literally thought that was it, thought I was gonna die. But what was interesting at that point, the only thing I thought about were my kids. So it kind of validated, okay, so I started the business, kind of the decisions I'd made in my life were ultimately driven because I wanted to be there for them. So surviving, my car was sinking, I climbed out the window. So luckily I made it through that, and then 2 years later was diagnosed with breast cancer. And went through all that last summer, and I fought it. But through all that, I'm winning another award for one of the fastest growing companies, and it was through going through chemo that whole summer. But I look back, I had an amazing team. I mean, I wasn't in the office through all that. I'd pop in here and there. But, I have a tremendous amount of support. What happened, I looked, it was, raining. I was coming out of a neighborhood. I was parallel to a creek. So I'd looked ahead and I'm like, I don't think I want to go that way. Turn around and don't drown, which I'd done several times in another neighborhood I lived in. So I stopped thinking, okay, I should probably turn around, and then my car died. And then my feet started getting wet from water. But I didn't know that I was parallel to a creek. I knew there was one ahead, so it's kind of like an L-shaped. So anyway, the creek, it just like flash flood, right? Like it engulfed me from behind and kind of pushed my car like a boat. So I somehow got my arm out of my window. And this is my advice to anyone. Leave yourself some type of out, because had I not had that window down when my car, so right when the fire truck was coming down, I'd stuck my arm out like, I'm here, I'm here. But then my whole car like tumbled and just got whoosh, and it went into the lake and it started sinking. And it was dark, it was 11 o'clock at night. So somehow I was able to grab that window. But had I not had, there's no way I could have gotten out of my car if I didn't have that. So adrenaline kicked in, I like pushed the window down, I pulled my body out. Still was like, I saw my kid's face and I'm like, okay, I've got it. I can't leave them without a mom. Like, I've got to make it through this. Having been through a couple of near-death experiences, I'd have to go back to live each day to the fullest, and don't just be a great entrepreneur. Don't just be a great mom. Don't be like, try to do a combination of things that you pull a lot of energy from. And there's a whole world out there. So, I love traveling, and, I like to experience, I guess, things outside of just know there's a whole world out there and alive. It's really who you're surrounding yourself with, whether it's the people you hire, whether it's the clients you choose to work with, it's your family, it's your friends. Ultimately, that's the most important thing in life. I think all of that has kind of helped me get through everything, including in a business sense as well. It's not just me, and it's so important that people understand, I couldn't be here without everyone else in my life. And so ultimately, that's what's most important.